disappeared, but we are Golden is saying he's busy at meeting people. Or what?
Yeah, but the meeting being streamed live now. I can see.
Oh, it's being streamlined as well.
Yeah, the way I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to check that as well because I can remember they are just watching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just in the meantime, just to sidetrack, hey, Zbongile is really going to the core, eh? Zbongile Mgoma.
Yeah, no, my friend.
Hey, she's really, but then this has
Yeah. I think like every one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it has to change.
She's fed up like all of us.
It has to change.
But it seems like on this video, man, man,
she was emotional.
Yeah, it was emotional, yeah.
Yeah, she was.
I thought no, which is fine because then it makes you feel, you know.
Le bone ba ka tshepo ba ka bo le bone nako o itseng dio tsa ga you have notified them, you know. Muzi wakhe Limbede Bratumza, they said if meeting is 6 ka 5 to batho ba itse batle wa tswala dikhoro ka 6 meeting o bonna on.
That's my attitude actually.
No, but that's what we got to do, yeah.
About to batla in the meeting, they will find the meeting on, but he won't allow them in, you know.
Yeah.
He will just close them out, and then they will engage. About no report back after, you know. Because you were late, you know.
We need to start respecting time on a serious note, on anything.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Okay, I didn't like I want to on.
Yeah, we are on, my friend.
So I'm watching it from the phone. So for those who are watching,
okay.
I'm just checking going on.
Oh, okay. I can hear it's a delayed streaming on your
streaming.
Okay. Let me check how many people are there, Golden.
Okay.
In the meantime, my Rooibos must not really finish, eh?
So I'm taking the video off. Lena must make my Rooibos now. Huh?
Okay, sure.
Do the proper one. Don't come with.
Okay, who's joining us? Buipilo is just joining us.
Yeah, I can see.
Mela says Buipilo. Says Buipilo. How's Buipilo?
Hi, Busapo.
Ligay ma.
Hi, ligay.
Prapila Lena.
Riten ligay.
Hey, tada. My brother, what is that?
Delayed this time.
Hello, how's Buipilo?
Ulisani, how are you, my brother?
And he's just looking at us. He's smiling. I don't know what he's smiling at.
You can hear us.
He's just smiling at us. Then you're greeting him. You're trying to engage with him. He's just engaging you with a smile.
We want to hear you, man.
No, he's here.
We can hear you now. We can hear you a bit. Just increase your volume.
But I can see you.
I can see him as well. He can see us. You can see us, Ursan.
Is that your hair or is the photo behind you? Urizani?
Yeah, no, it's Mantula,
It looks like the hair.
Ras Mantula.
Mafrika, I'm here.
No, again, why we should at least know ka 5 pass start, you see.
Or about 10 pass.
Ka 10 pass, ne?
Yeah, I'll say let's give them until 10 pass.
Okay, let's do 10 pass, and then Golden is saying there are 2 other participants. So I think we can start with us, and then people will join in because at least they've got access.
Yeah.
I'll also ask him to track how many people are also watching, because there are those amongst us who chose to view, not to participate, which is fine. Which is fine.
They can view me chewing an orange, it's fine.
Yeah.
The healthy stuff.
Yes. So I've requested Golden to record this session so that we at least have a record of it, and we can always reflect and go back to it. Ulisani, are you able to? Can we hear you now, my brother? Maybe you must unmute, ne? Because we can't hear you. Can you hear Ulisani, Bratumza?
I can't hear him. I can't hear him. Not at all. I heard him briefly before, but
yeah, I heard you. But can you hear us? Okay, but we can't hear you.
Unless if you want us to get trained on sign language. I don't know what time we'll get that.
That quick, that quick.
What, maybe your connection there, your phone, does it have a mic?
Just make sure that the
what do you call it, your headphones.
Try again.
Does he have a mic? But is it on?
As we below. We need all your inputs. So
yes,
try some. Are you going to still leave us or Fedisa meeting home?
No, I'll leave only at around 7:25.
Oh, okay, 7:25. Oh, okay. I thought it was 17.
Yes.
Hey, I don't know why my mind is all over the place.
Okay, I should have written 19 because I think I wrote 7. Yeah.
Yeah, so in my mind, 17. In fact, was starting at 18 hours.
17. Okay, okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah, no. Thanks, sister, for joining us. Let's see how far we go. Mandula is saying we start at 10 past because,
thank you.
Yeah, he will probably give us a, broad understanding of issues. Then we
time, no problem.
Yeah, we trim it down to be practical. I don't know what's happening to. Okay. Let me try to get Tony again. Dumelang Sphumzile. Ulisani, are you fine, my brother? Yo. Muafrika Lisiba.
It's connecting. Listen, I think maybe if I may suggest, maybe remove your headphones and do directly. Remove from the gadget. Remove it and see. How is it? Now I can't hear you. But then the
You know
side,
what?
check the volume side.
Ulisani, go to your laptop and go to your speakers.
Yes.
Have you done that?
And check the mic also.
Check, yeah, that it's using it must use the laptop mics and speakers. Asphumzile.
Hi, I'm here.
Dumelang. Ahora dumedis.
Okay.
Legaina.
Greetings to everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hello, Pumzi. Hello.
Okay,
Ulisani kena fela simuma lewan. It's going to give us a problem.
He'll get it right. He'll get it right. Mhlekazi Matoto. Disiba.
Hey, Ja.
How are you, Mwetapin?
I'm good. How are you, Mwetapin? Greetings.
No, all
greetings,
is well. All is well.
Greetings.
Trying to navigate, trying to roll with the
creative. No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll wait. We know these things sometimes they are too nyanyana.
Yeah.
But
Mandula.
We'll wait.
Greetings, comrades.
Matoto.
Yes, fellow creatives, Lisa.
Creatively poetic brother.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, how are you, Matoto?
Oh, I'm good, man. Nothing to complain about. And how are you?
No, great to hear.
Okay.
Great to hear from you. I think okay, Tony's saying is trying to get in again. I think if we are now I see we are 9, and I think we can start because in any case, we thought that we will divide the session in 2 formats, but let me not, preempt all the processes. It's already, quarter past. Mama Toto. It's good to see you, as always. Olisani, are you winning, my brother? Okay, I think maybe we can start. Oh, it says connecting audio. Yeah, I think it's coming, Olisani.
I can see it's connecting.
Yeah, I think you're getting it right now.
We are struggling in South Africa, trying to get to the 4th industrial, whatever that is.
That thing is arrogant. We are just going to have to do it. Hey, the arrogance of YR does not. Hey, it's arrogant, that thing, but Matoto.
Very arrogant.
Hey, whether you like it or you don't, it forces you to just follow.
Yeah.
Did not connect audio. And I think we can start, and what we'll do, particularly for our fellow creatives who are unable to just connect a bit for now, I think we can just maximize the time we have and try and push. We hope that if we are unable to get some of the questions coming, or colleagues aren't able to participate fully, we'll be able to get them to send us questions that they can send on our app, on our WhatsApp group, and then we can entertain them. it is just unfortunate that sometimes, you know, people want to raise issues. I know Ulisani wants to say something. I know very well. It's just unfortunate that technology can do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But once again, let me welcome everyone to this webinar. You know, one of the things that are very interesting is that the creatives digital streets are beginning to raise fundamental issues of the industry. And sometimes it's good that we see each other when we engage. Because others are hiding behind Wabmatoto, nice poems and stuff, and we don't know them. Yesterday, one of our colleagues was saying, no, but you must be visible as well. But that is part of what we want to do. And basically, colleagues, so that I can just go directly to the webinar. It has been prompted by the issues that we're discussing on the platform, and specifically, Tony was talking about the ability, you know, to use soft power as an instrument to begin to advance South Africa's national interest. Dumelang,
Hey, Rasmantul on the board.
Yes. So maybe let me start by saying this platform is meant to be open. That is why we did not send an agenda and so forth, because part of it is that the agenda does, in a way, limit people from being open and, you know, raise issues, honestly. We know what are the issues, I think, and these issues that we know affect us in the similar or same way. And I think we need to just get into the, you know, the discussions about how do we really get to resolve these matters in our own way and try to mobilize these networks we have so that we can deal with these matters. So as I was saying, the webinar was prompted by some recording that was done by Tony about soft power. And just to indicate that we have been working on this issue of soft power diplomacy, which is basically about cultural diplomacy, if you like. And we know that as a country, having done our own advances, you know, in our own spaces, Bralux will tell you we raise the matters under the African peer review mechanism. Ras Mandula will tell you we deal with the matter all the time. But even today, 26 years later, we don't even have a paragraph on South Africa's cultural diplomacy policy. So which means that if 26 years has come and gone and nothing has happened, it means that something has got to come from somewhere. And I think, and I've always believed that it is the industry itself that must define some of the policy dispensations rather than waiting for government to do so. And I therefore think that it's an opportunity then through the creative digital streets that we have these discussions and find a way of collectively coming up with ways in which we can, you know, build some form of a concerted effort where we can then rally ourselves and put something to the table that can mobilize the entire creative industries. And as such, what I'm going to do is to request that they, or rather creative brother, Raz, to give us just an overall analysis of the industry, but also touch on some of the policy imperatives that we are working with as a country in terms of advancing or empowering the industry. But Mantula, let me not waste time and allow you to come in there.
Nkosi, thank you, Jalebo Hatsepo, and good evening, fellow Africans, Ma-Africa, from near and far, who are watching us, listening to us this evening on an important agenda and a topic on cultural diplomacy or cultural relations. And as Chapo have said, it will be important and befitting for us to start this engagement by recalling one of our first cultural ambassador in this country, Mirem Wakamakeba. Before I go to Mirem Makeba, actually after Mirem Makeba, I will try to be very short, but try to take our fellow creatives to can understand that there is a hard power, there is a soft power.
Mhm.
And again, it is important to note that there is political and economical diplomacy, which is relations, or which is a logic or thinking or exchange of ideas. So this meeting as well, this webinar, is again exchange of ideas. One can say it's part of cultural exchange of ideas in this COVID-19 situation that we are now finding ourselves in. But looking at Memire Mohamakeba, he said an important words when he said, I kept my culture, I kept the music of my roots. Through my music, I became the voice and the image of Africa and the people without even realizing. Very important that this was once said by him in 1976.
When him or her?
Her,
Okay.
when she was saying that,
Okay.
it is very important for us to know that as a singer, you will sing things, or as a creative, you will say things that are surrounding you, things that affect you. Very important to think about Memire Mohamakeba. But an important aspect, definition, before we can go further, I don't want to be intellectual. Creatives, it is very important to understand that cultural diplomacy was used in many countries, and mostly European countries, that in the early 1900s, 1960s, 1970s. But if we are bringing it back home in Africa, we had a charter, a cultural charter in 1976. So that's where I will want us to link it with it first. But we had our liberation movements in this country who were having cultural desks, or what you can say, arts and culture activists in their midst. Very important for our cultural creative community to can understand that within the ANC, within PAC, within AZAPO, UDF, churches, artists, there was that spark of cultural diplomacy. Moving forward, Tsepo, as you have said now about the policy, definitions around this aspect will always take us to the issue of understanding that even governments are able to can manipulate cultural diplomacy, because there is trade involved in it. There is issues of tourism, investment involved. There is even intellectual property involved, the intellectual knowledge of creatives. Now, you look back that Oliver Tambo spoke about this aspect, lengthy. Hence, there was a Mandla Ensemble group that was led by Borre, Jonas Gwangwa, and others. You have Dr. Wali Sorot, who was the head of culture, Ko Gaborone. That was one of the missions of ANC. There were many foreign missions of the ANC by then. But it is important for us to know that post-1994, cultural diplomacy was supposed to have been led by our late elder Alfred Nzo, because it was supposed to be located at Foreign Affairs. That is what I will want to just pause there so that I can allow others to come in. But just to say that for us to craft the policy, as we have seen in the social media, people being appointed cultural ambassadors, when we don't have cultural diplomacy policy, we don't have cultural attaches in this country, we don't even have a cultural policy that informs our national interest. And what is our national interest as well, post-1994, when culture as well was part of education, was part of science, was part of communication, was part of branding Azania or South Africa. So it is very important in our contextualization. If we want to understand cultural relations, the issue is that it was left abandoned as an orphan. And it was left abandoned as an orphan because by then, the first Minister of Arts and Culture, of Science and Technology, missed the point of understanding, which was Ben Ngubane, missed the point of understanding cultural relations in the sense of bringing the then Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now came the era of Thabo Mbeki in 1999. Miriam Makeba, Dr. Miriam Zenzile Makeba was appointed as a cultural ambassador. On the basis of her experience, her knowledge of the issues in the world, her multilingualism, that of the language, and what I said earlier about her, to say she could see things that were surrounding her and his group and his collective. And that was through some of us when we heard, it was through the pressure that came from the then late Hugh Masekela, say, but Miriam has not been given recognition. Very important once more, that we never recognized many more. It's not only Miriam Makeba, there are many more we have passed on. Bo Dr. Philip Tabani, Bo Remashatini, Bo Med Dorothy Masuku, Bo Brare Piri. There are many, there are many. Bo Mebusim Shongo. I don't want to go lengthy. Bo Lucky Dube. There are many that we could have picked them as our cultural ambassadors in this country. But on the issue of lack of knowledge and lack of policy directive, now it was put into arts and culture, international relations. That's where it was diverted, dirtified, polluted. I remember one meeting I had with the then advisor to Minister Paulo Jordan, the late Professor Kyurapetse Khosile. We were in a high-level meeting of UNESCO on cultural expressions. And I said to him, why cultural diplomacy is lacking in this country? When there was a first meeting in Jamaica 15 years ago of South Africa, African Union, this issue came up. And foreign affairs was not clear by then. And they were saying arts and culture must draft the policy to assist them. Now you can see that gap from the then President Thabo Mbeki, came President Zuma, came Minister Paul Mashatile. Rumors are that there were cultural attaches appointed outside South Africa who were not even people from this country, who were not even the nationals.
Exactly.
Rumors are that you had cultural exchange programs that were going under African season, what they call cultural season. That is part of cultural diplomacy, but it was never defined to the creatives. So in short, Paul Mashatile came, there was many debates around it, but there was nothing that was done. President Ramaphosa came in. Actually, after Paul Mashatile came, Minister Nati Mthethwa, and there was nothing again on the table. President Ramaphosa came, there was nothing. And you will understand, colleagues, every state of the nation of the president, you hardly find a weight on cultural relations. You find social cohesion and nation building, but it cannot be linked to cultural diplomacy, which must be Africanized and decolonized from Germany and America, because these are the two superpowers that were leading on this soft power issue of public opinion, the diplomacy and cultural diplomacy. Now we are in a situation we are finding ourselves where post Zuma era, we thought Ramaphosa with the new dawn, he will understand the issue of cultural diplomacy. Finally, I will say to the creatives, as a person who is on radio, I have engaged with the new Minister of International Relations, Pando, on the issue of our foreign policy. And I said to him, you are only focusing on the two twins, which is political and economy. Where is the last born? Where is the trinity? The tripartite? Where is culture? And Pando said on the radio, on Power FM with Murio, he said, no, Sipo, when I came into DIRCO, I did raise it, but nobody took me serious. But I think it's something we must think about it. Something we must think about. Then you ask yourself, the ready to govern document, tactics and strategies of ANC, have they been dumped? Have they been lost somewhere, or is the server of the African National Congress and other liberation movements, have they deleted cultural diplomacy now? Because this is one of the pillars of the ANC beyond international solidarity. That is my take finally with a person like Re Svison Jofu, Becky Peterson, where our conclusion has been cultural diplomacy is the fifth pillar of the revolution. It cannot end at international solidarity only. We need to Africanize our cultural relations, and that soft power must assist creatives who are watching today, who are listening to us, to say, but labantu bathini mabathi cultural diplomacy or cultural relations, when at the local government level it's not even visible. At the provincial level, it's not visible. At the national level, it's not visible. At the regional level, it's not visible. At the AU level, at SADC, we don't have that policy as well, by the way. And that's where I can say, Sepol remembers, since 2016, I've been at the many AU meetings as an expert type of, but raising the issues of cultural diplomacy. I went to Abuja last year again, at another institute on conflict resolution, still using cultural diplomacy on silencing guns in Africa. But we can still, as even creatives, use culture to start to silence corruption that we see in our many ministries of arts and culture, because creatives have a way of ridiculing government, of mocking government, because we have to mock and ridicule government in a constructive manner, in a positive manner. We don't, and that is a thing that was said 5 years ago, if Sepo you will recall, in a fourth Pan-African Cultural Congress, when one of the elders from West Africa said, we must make our leaders fools sometimes. When they talk, we must not listen to them, we must just laugh at their own stupidity. We must laugh, we must not even take them seriously. But for me, I am turning it back and I say, let us critique our leaders in this government with positivity. Let us start to imbibe this virus of knowledge of African consciousness to our leaders. And we should not give up. Not all leaders are bad apples. But our Ministry of Arts and Culture, it has lacked to push cultural diplomacy. And I will stop there because I see Brother Tony has joined, and he can recall as well at some point we were talking about it. No, I don't think I've changed them. Maybe it's the issue of the signal, but the signal of us is cultural diplomacy in South Africa have lost focus because there is no policy. That's what I will end, Sepo. And then there is the issue that we don't have cultural activists who are now putting pressure, because we have to put pressure by all means to the head of the state, to the Minister of International Relations, to be saying that we cannot have our elders passing on. My cry was when Dorothy Masuku was ill-treated even after her passing. The same like Bo Miriam Wahamakeba, the same like Bo Rekredo Mutwa. Many creatives, they passed on with a pain. And this pain comes from negligence of our government. This negligence is to come out of, for us to understand cultural diplomacy, we must even place it on an educational curriculum. Our arts and culture, our faculties of arts in many universities, they don't know this notion we are talking about this evening. I can assure you, they don't know it very well. The people who are in the tourism industry, they know about it. Foreign Affairs doesn't even have cultural attaches. Our Ministry of International Relations doesn't have cultural attaches. So we are having a crisis in this country that we must deal with, because this is an opportune time for us to engage. I think I will stop there, Tsepo. I've spoken lengthy, but I didn't want to bore them with definitions. But in short, like I've said, the issue around exchange of ideas, it is very important for us to know that the issue of culture, cultural relations have to be dealing with exchange of ideas, looking at the issues of arts, looking at the issues of economy, and only finally, I've been saying finally, the only person who was given the award this year, which it was paining me, it was Ntate Vusi Mahlasela, when he was given the Ubuntu Arts and Culture Award. Is there a need for this country to be still pursuing awards now? Based on these summer awards now, based on the Satma awards, when artists are still starving now, I think we should rework the idea of the awards to have institutions, to have cultural institutions that can represent cultural diplomacy. The money we are spending on the awards, we could be having an Azanian South African Cultural Diplomacy Institute located at DIRCO, at Arts and Culture, at Trade and Industry. And as well, that's where we could be dealing with this crisis.
Africa Mantula, thank you very, very much for your eloquent, input. And I think we all understand. What I will be doing myself is to facilitate. There's lots that I can say, but I want us to be able to then, as we go through, just articulate some of the issues. Brother Tony Horoko, thanks again for joining again.
Yes.
I just want to throw just a few, additions to what Mantula is saying, and really to clarify ourselves of the status of where we are as a country. I always said to many of the creatives that I've engaged with, that there is an opportunity for creatives to take up this responsibility of leading the policy-making process of cultural diplomacy in South Africa, without necessarily having to wait for government to do so. There is no argument that 26 years later, we can conclude on one of the two things. That one, it's maybe that they don't understand what is this thing which is called cultural diplomacy. And their misunderstanding or lack of understanding may be based on the fact that they are not practitioners. So you can't write a policy on international cooperation when you don't even understand how other creatives out there in the world would relate with our own creatives in the country. So I think that is the one issue. The second issue may be that this is deliberate, that creatives are not given an opportunity to go and compete in the world. If they do so, they must do so in their own right and with their own cost. Because it is quite different from what you see with other countries. I mean, the reality of the situation, creatives, is that in South Africa today, we've got all manner of creative practitioners from all over the world that have settled here in our own country. They are here, they've settled, they are having comfortable, in fact, they are competing with us pound for pound. Now, the question that we need to ask is, to which extent are we able to recognize that there's an opportunity here? There's an opportunity that we ourselves as practitioners lead these processes. And with that, I was just adding on what Ntate Mantula was saying. Let me open up the floor. I mean, really, colleagues, it's the question of somebody just indicating the name of wanting to speak and then can just go through so that we manage the traffic of input. Or maybe you can advise me. I can always request your guidance to say, should I pick people to make input, or we can just indicate our interest to speak?
Tsapo, I don't know if other people can hear you.
But
then, yeah, it looks like it's quiet. I see even the mics and all that. It looks like that.
Are you able to hear me, colleagues? Why?
I can. I can hear you.
Colleagues, can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Okay. Well, colleagues are saying they can hear us. Wulisani, are you fine now, my brother? No. But like I said, colleagues, can we get some interactions with what Ntate Mantula has raised? And really, you know, for me, it is that issue. I mean, he's raising a fundamental issue of maybe this platform should be the one that proposes the establishment of the Azania Cultural Diplomacy Institute within DERCO. What do we think about that?
Can I have a point here? One of the things before the suggestion for this webinar,
yes.
what I've realized, it's not that I don't have much of a history in the creative space, but I have worked with artists, and currently I'm working some of the managing some of the projects with two well-known artists, and one of them is coming through. I hope she will be coming through. So my experience engaging with artists across the board is that it seems as if many, if not 99% of artists, you can talk about singers, actors, and all that, they are not grounded. They are still searching as to what power do they have when they get into an industry. Even those that are known. I mean, the fact that Ras Mantula spoke about Miriam Makeba, the way she was abused, it showed me that she didn't have that much power or anchor that people can really push her around. This is what I've seen with the artists that I've came across with. I mean, I did my acting work in two of the series on TV. And those were my two acting roles that I did, I think 2-3 years ago. But the abuse of an artist, they don't even have a confidence of saying, I'm an artist that can deliver. And you're talking about well-known actors. Whenever they're even afraid to raise issues about themselves in the space that they're working in, right? Because they're afraid that should they raise a voice about any issue, they'll be shown the door. I think even before we go into the policies and all that, which is something that we need to work with, obviously, that is an obvious case. But can we go into an artist, into a creative, and boost their what do you call their confidence to say, I'm able to articulate my issues in my space. Recently, we've seen in the acting space, one actress spoke about her worth, right? Where is she now? We can't see her anymore. You see, not even on repeated programs. We can't see her anymore. I'm talking about Vatiswa here. And there were those before her. Let's talk about singers. There are singers who had an issue with the record company. They are held to ransom. They can't release anything because they owe a record company something, an album. So they can't even participate with their own trade. You see, so I think maybe we should go back a bit, a step back a bit and say, what can be done to get the artist to be confident enough to say, I own this space because I create this space. Many of the works of our artists today does not belong to them, right? And the confidence of them saying, we are now going to be representing our country in the diplomatic field will not even be there because they are not even confident to raise their personal issues in the space. Maybe we should also look at that to say, as creatives, what platforms amongst ourselves, what platform can we create to make sure that the artists, wherever, I mean, even the fine arts, I know of some few fine artists, the artists, the fine arts artists, they draw something, they see it somewhere on the office of a big man's office. That office bought it for 200,000 rands, but he was only paid 2,200 or 2,000 rands. Now, these are the things that I think maybe if you can address and get the confidence back. Like Bo Gibson Kente owned his space. How many production owners can say they own their space today? Maybe if I can pause there.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Pratumza. Can I get reflections and reactions from some of our colleagues here as well? And I think the focus here is very clear. I think Pratumza is now saying to us, part of what we need to do is to build the confidence amongst the industry practitioners. To say when you go and compete in the world, you don't have issues hanging over you about on whose behalf are you delivering this kind of art and who is really benefiting here. And I think it's a very fundamental issue we need to go to, and it's a matter that we need to really look into as we intend to, you know, zoom into what are then the aspects, because what I hear you say, Pratumza, is that basically it is important that we deal with policy and establish relevant institutions informed by police.
Yes.
But at what level are we able to empower the practitioners to be ready to compete? And I think that is what we are saying. So that when they do so, they do that with a clear understanding that they do this for themselves and for the country first, and be able to then compete with the world with high level of confidence. Because I've seen other artists of the world, in fact, their levels of confidence are so scary to even our own. I mean, people do the same kind of art, but immediately you meet with somebody from other country who's got this serious attitude. You become secondary, even in front of people. But that's not the matter now. Issue of confidence, which must be backed up by our own country, you know, supporting our own craft. So how do we deal with that? And I think it's a fundamental issue about artist development. Can I get other reflections, colleagues? I'm noting stuff as we speak, and then I'll give some summary at the end, because there are things that are practical that we're going to have to do. And I think it starts here, and we're going to move with it. I still maintain, at the back of our minds, we must always have an understanding that the issue of cultural diplomacy, leading the processes for the formulation of South Africa's cultural diplomacy policy, it's a low-hanging fruit. Nobody talks about it, not even politicians. So we need to start leading that process. And I think it's an opportunity that we need to take with both our arms. Let me get in, Bratoni, you posted to us a very powerful message. If you can just reflect on that, and for us to be able to be empowered through your wisdom, of course. Okay, Pralux.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Pralux.
Greetings, fellow creatives. I have listened to what was raised. I don't disagree with any of the things that were raised. I am reminded as to when Sipho was speaking about the DAC. The biggest cancer that is eating away the confidence of artists. Because even if you are confident currently, I'm speaking as one confident artist, you will be confident in the gutter if there is no strong system in place to harness that confidence. Remember, creation is an individual aspect. We create in our individual spaces, but the benefit of what we create in the individual spaces comes to fruition in the public, which means that, as I'm trying to agree with the fact that when you are confident when you're confident, nobody can shoot down your work because you know you put energy and everything into that work. Your work, you value it first before others value it. You critique it first before others do. Now, Abo Mamu Miriam Makebe did the very same thing, but at that time, the conditions was that politicians needed to hear that. They needed to use that to advance the struggle, which was a strong institution. I would say now they used us because the very people who should know. For example, when the organization were to be unbanned, we were taken here. We flew to London to fundraise at the Zabalaza Festival, another festival, for them to come back home. We performed all over. Politicians were pushing that you look at Dhaka, which was culture in another South Africa, the festival there, including the Zabalaza Festival. These were festivals that these organizations had arts and culture departments. There was DAC, there was that, even when you went there at London, you would meet with PAC, you would meet with Roman Bago Azanla, they were there. They were soldiers, Abanye, who carried their weapons, but they were artists also at the same time. When they find time in the bushes, they would write songs. That is why there was the Aman, the cultural assembly from the ANC. It pains when those people who should know the power of the arts don't even give a damn about it now.
Yes.
Because the arts now, even the funding, it is such that if you look at the structure of funding of the arts and culture, it is not developmental in nature. It is such that Umantula, if Manchong Usipo and Fumanskuti, you know what? Usipo is having it nice there. I can come up with something that destroys Usipo in order because Usipo is becoming a problem because of the content yake, and they are uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I sell myself cheap to replace Usipo.
Yes.
You know, and we jump for tours that do us nothing. Go to America, organized by DAC. You come back a pauper. You are celebrated there. They think you are somebody big. You should be big by your work and the quality of your work. When they ask you, they get surprised to know that no, you are a hobo at home. You are a very talented hobo. Now, for us to have, for us not to have talented hobos, we need this space of the creative artists, of creative art that has been a WhatsApp platform to make it something that is the start of something big. Because in politics, if you do not have numbers, you don't have a voice. You can be how confident if you do not have a proper structure like where we are now. Tomorrow, when we have this webinar, you have about 2,000 politicians listen because these are people that can wreak havoc. But if you are two, they just don't see you. So we need to start as artists to say that as much as we create individually, I may be a poet. It does not mean that when I meet with other poets, I diminish to be a poet. I remain a poet. But we have that tendency of seeing that when we meet people who are doing the very same thing that we do, we sort of have our taps. We are like lions, where we're marking, this is my tap. Don't intrude here. You know? So we should not be territorial when we approach this. We should be saying that we must be one another's keeper. Then, that way, when we call the minister, it is not a competition as to who spoke first speaks about him, so that when we go out of that meeting, they say that Matoto, you speak too much. Can we give you? We have this small thing that we can give you. We have a 100,000 funding. You forget everything that we were talking in this webinar. You follow the 100,000. You say it's about me. They send you outside. And what's the use of going outside when there is not even a system in place, like cultural diplomacy, as Usipo was talking about here? You know the pain of the artist as I go down, as I sit down. I always say that we are decorated hobos. We don't even have colors. We don't have colors. Rugby, they have South African colors. Artists don't have colors. That's why they even get us confused when they have to give us state funerals, because you don't even have country colors. We don't wear country colors because our art form is not recognized as sports people, because you know with sports people, they know that if they represent Amapokopoko, if they represent Abafana, they had an opportunity to wear colors. We die with legends who never had colors. There's nothing. So if you have a program, you have a structure like this one, it is about time that then we can be able to say, let us be recognized as a national asset, because the things we write about, if the power of an artist, if we are not aware about our power, we can lead to the psychic destruction of our own country because we do not know the nature of our power. So I'm saying, for me, it starts here. We are 9 or 10 today. Tomorrow will be 20. But let us build and have more people to join, more people, get all the groundwork. Then politicians will not be able to divide us. The cultural diplomacy and the issue of DECO taking us seriously. We will have a structure to say this, because now the problem is you create a structure. I also want to create a structure, and then we have fragmented structures. There is no power in fragmentation. The web of a spider is strong because it is connected. We need to connect with one another and be strong. Thank you very much. I said too much. Sorry for that.
Hey, Bamatot, you know, every time you speak, even in our other platforms, you just, you know, wrap it up. But I don't want that now, because some of us still have got views to share. Welcome back, as we pillow. And Tatakoro. And Tatakoro, because
I'm here.
okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
I have a problem with network here, so I lose you and I get you sometimes.
Okay, no, just your inputs, my brother, and your reflections. I mean, we've gotten to this point because, you know, you've triggered even ourselves to think deeper about these matters, and we thought, you know, let's do this. For us, it's not about numbers; it's about the activity that must be practical moving forward. But Matoto says something very powerful. He says we need to understand the nature of our power. You know, we need to understand the nature of our power, you know, in this country. And I think it's something quite profound that we need to start thinking about. But your views on this matter, and that the
Yeah, you know, it's a very interesting and sensitive issue at a time. And I think it all starts with education. And in most cases, in what we do, we don't have the induction of our creatives in them understanding the power they have, and that the power they have can actually move walls to the next level. But one of the things that was raised is also the anchoring of this platform. And I would like us to see ourselves, maybe just to encourage all the creatives in Africa who are in this platform, to say, this is a movement. Let us take it as an organization that can actually move things. Because nobody can think for us. We must think for ourselves. One of the other things that I want to point out was the issue cultural diplomacy. That thing doesn't sit well in anyhow. And I think maybe we should start, my suggestion would just to start really writing to DECO, to Department of Arts and Culture, and any department that has a certain into the creative sector, and making sure that we at least talk about this thing, and making sure that, is there someone talking? Sorry.
No, continue.
Did someone want to say something? Or
No.
No.
Sorry, I was just telling somebody that I'm in a meeting. So sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. No, thanks, Mafrik. So it was just that issue of saying we need to start structuring and actually writing ourselves, because nobody is writing within the creative sector. People want to strike. People want to go there and do and show how much of macho voices they have to disrespect and do whatever. And I think within this creative digital streets, we need to narrow our path in terms of how we engage with all these things, so that we just don't become a talk show. But it must be something that is written whether it's every month or every week. Let's write something that can touch somewhere, and make sure that we make a proper follow-up in making sure that nobody can get away from whatever we have written. And more than anything else, it is without making any comment, it's just to encourage us to really stand firm, and really not to lose track, because I think we are all sensitive to the creative culture exploitation. And the other thing that I thought maybe we could touch on was this issue of the Copyright Amendment Bill. This thing of Copyright Amendment Bill, it's really an issue that also needs an engagement at a serious level. And more than anything else, we have to make sure that we are affected. It's been taken back so that people can make amendments and send them back to Parliament. So I'm just requesting to all creative, and more especially to this platform. We have great thinkers here. We have people who can write. We have people who have walked the walk. People who have seen others suffer, and people who have been exploited to the level where it's uncalled for. So I'm just saying, let's find a way, Africa, whether once a month or twice a month. I don't know how. Maybe it's just a suggestion that I'm throwing out there, that these things, we just don't let them go. We don't talk about them on these web seminars, and we let them go and slip through our hands, and then we cry foul afterwards. Let us engage. The other last issue that I want to make, this is the last one that I'm making, is the issue that this thing here, the relief fund, we need to engage on this issue, guys. We can't let this thing go like this. We can't let systems that are failing and systems that are not in place to be put out there as if they are in place, and we fall into the trap, and then we cry foul afterwards. Since the minister has opened up this thing of saying that he wants to talk to everyone, all organization is open, he has given others 20 million or whatever sort of. I think we need to really bring our minds together and say, what is it that the minister is saying, and why is he saying the things that he's saying? On whose behalf is he saying, or is he saying them because there is a certain procedure that is following that is affected, or there was a certain consultation that happened that informed his decision in terms of what he's doing? Those are the things that we have to challenge, and harshly so that we make sure that our people get something, or something decent is created out of this thing. We can't be told all the time who is. I mean, the issue of cultural diplomacy, I don't know. I don't even know where to start. It really breaks my heart, because it's something that we've been speaking about for a long time with Abu Rasipo, Tepo. We've been talking about this international. So I don't even want to go there. It's just something that we really need to sit down, write about it, make sure that we propose a policy that can be affected at DECO, that can also sit with the Department of Arts and Culture and all other departments that are affecting the creative and cultural industries. So with these few words, let me just wrap it up there and just give others a chance. But those are the things that I just wanted to input to our web seminar.
Dr. Khorok, as always, thank you, Matapili. And as you always are eloquent on these matters, I think, you know, I take from whatever is that you are saying that, you know, if we are the ones who are going to undermine this platform we started, then we should as well, you know, continue to be followers of other things that are happening out there. I think Bralux also emphasized that matter.
Yeah.
That you know, a revolution was not started by a moria of people, you know.
No.
It were a few people who sat and they defined direction and they moved forward. You know, I just want to also throw this to all of us, and it should scale up. It should in fact scare us that in the next 10 years, if the Chinese soft power intervention in the continent succeeds, we will be sitting and listening to our 10-year-olds in the next coming 10 years, Bamatot, having a webinar speaking Mandarin.
Yeah.
And you know, it tells us how our elders feel today about us when we speak English, to say to which extent do we leave them out of the discourse. So I'm merely saying that there is a push, there is a serious advance across all other continents of the world to continue to, you know, influence other communities of the world. I'm not sure to which extent are we in the continent really, you know, except for one example that I know for a fact, and I'm quite proud that this has happened in this continent. What Mwalimu Julius Nyerere did in Tanzania, you know, he himself said he will not live to see all Tanzanians speak one language, but he will start the process. And if you go to Tanzania today, you know, I had an opportunity to go to as far as Pemba, which is one of the islands in Zanzibar. And it's interesting to see even, you know, the Muslim community speaking Kiswahili. I mean, when those people have elections, they everywhere you go, they speak Kiswahili. Now, this is a powerful thing, insofar as I'm concerned. And I'm not saying we should accept Kiswahili over other languages, but this is the essence of soft power. The fact that we are speaking in English now, and maybe the people who are owning Zoom and all these platforms are listening to us. We are, in fact, we're basically selling out everything that we want to push. And they can easily go and stop it if they want to, so that we don't even get to DERCO. Immediately when you get to DERCO, they say, we know about you, please don't come in. So I'm saying, when we need to think about the question of soft power, it goes to that level. We must be able to understand that 10, 15 years to come, we will not be able to converse with our children. In fact, they will be speaking about us in the house without us hearing what they are saying. It's a reality. But the question then that we need to ask ourselves is, what is it that we've got to do? Because I don't think there are special people here in the world. It's just a question of focus, concerted effort, and uniting around a purpose. And I just wanted to throw these colleagues without trying to, you know, ruffle feathers. But these are important things we need to think about. When we speak about the consolidation of a creative power, Ndade Khoroge speaks about educating creatives to understand that their power can have such an impact that it can move walls. What is it that we need to be able to do? Because for me, if we're able to consolidate that narrative and consolidate it properly, I do think that there's nobody who can stand in our way when we say, then we want to take this thing and compete in the world, because we understand the power that we have. For now, we are not sure. As long as you have got nice music being viewed all over social media, who knows, maybe the same people viewing it 50 times a day, and you get to be an ambassador. Those are things that we need to question. I don't think they must just be left unattended. And the decisions that are taken by our politicians, they must be taken to task. I agree with you fully, Ndade Kgorogo. Let me allow other creatives to speak. I know Phumzile has raised fundamental issues with me on the side, but here's a platform, Phumzile. Let's hear your views. You're welcome. Phumzile?
I'm here. Good evening, everyone, once again.
Evening.
Good evening. Good evening, sister.
Hi. Okay. I agree with what has been said by colleagues so far. I had private discussions with Tsepo earlier. Now, my biggest concern is the role of the arts in our education system, in our public school education system. And by public schools, I'm referring specifically to township schools and rural schools. And because that is a burden for me, to an extent that originally I'm from Atteridgeville, and I was looking to start to establish an art center in Atteridgeville, and also not really to say Atteridgeville per se, because I believe that that should exist in every township, because I have seen the role or the importance of arts in the issue of education, in the issue of the development of the minds of people, in the issue of, because now I really value the arts to an extent. I don't think our country plays an importance of the arts, even with issues of the GDP, the economy. I think that's one of the main problems or the concerns, that our government does not really think that the arts can play a role towards the improvement of the economy, job creation, the way we see other countries place such an importance on the arts. And for me, it's something I'm really, really passionate about it. When speakers were talking about, we need to write, yes, my hand is up. I can, if you want something in a couple of days, I'll give it to you to put out there. I'm volunteering, I'm in. I'm really passionate about it. I'm an attorney by profession. I'm a better writer than I am a speaker anyway. So I really, really like, I'm volunteering there. So I'm going to put something out. And I will do so on a continuous basis. I think I agree with that we need to value our power, because we have power. We are a force to be reckoned with. It's not about numbers. As we are right now, we are forceful as we are right now. And I believe that we need to start that now. And I think moving forward, and I hope that we will close this discussion by really paving a way forward as to the how now, the implementation part of it, the execution part of it. What is it that we do? Yeah, but now my hand is raised. I'm in. Whatever it is that you want me to do, whatever participation that you need from me, contribution, I'm in. That's it for now. I will talk a bit later.
Thank you, Phumzile. In a nutshell, you are saying to us, in fact, you know, the matter was raising about Chinese having now introduced Mandarin at elementary level. You are saying, how do we counter that? Exactly what I was saying, that, you know, other communities of the world, they are here in our own country to compete with us. They, in fact, want to obliterate our own languages. That we are struggling with English alone is not even their business. So you are saying arts education. How do we counter this seemingly what we see? I mean, it's happening. It's not like it's a question of people are still thinking about it. For years, we have struggled to get arts education into our schools. Yet you have China coming and saying they want to offer Mandarin for free at the elementary level. And we jump to the opportunity as South Africans. Our young people should not now, we shouldn't hear what they say in the next coming few years. We shouldn't hear what they are saying. They should be confusing us all over the place. But let me allow Boipelo to make a few inputs. She's got to leave us at 7:25. DJ Tobasco, I see you, my brother, and I'll also offer you an opportunity. You know, colleagues, I must say that it pains me that I'm not going to hear Urisani because the man is just firebrand, you know. I've spoken to him a number of times. I just don't know why his own tech is sabotaging him. But maybe it's for the better, Urisani. Don't feel bad, my brother. How's Boipelo?
Thanks, Butsepo. Lankutla, can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Because my connection has been terrible. I've been getting logged off on and off the whole time. But Relebohile Tata, thank you so much for everybody's inputs, you know, without taking too much time. I think for me, what's been coming up what's been very glaring, you know, is more than anything the copyright issue. You know, I feel that this is the key. That's why they the powers that be or whomever, you know, created such a structure. It is what we need to almost either if we say how do we navigate, if we say we're creating an alternative, you know, for ourselves in the meantime, whilst we are at the same time trying to make an input and make an influence on, you know, the governing the base, the current structure, it's very difficult to actually it's not something that you can bypass, you know. It's just there. It is what it is, you know. And I think at the core of it, it is not progressive, of course. It's exploitative, and it's also not really aligned with our core principles as Ma-Africa. So I feel like if anything, you know, the next generation, or at least the generation after that, needs to be Baduma, like they need to be really at the state where they, you know, they can just, they understand it. I think we need to get to a point where people really understand what is going on, you know. What are these laws saying? How are these laws, and how have they allowed us to not make any progress for so long? You know, and only by changing things at that fundamental level is how we'll start to how everyone will benefit, and how I think that's the lock. I think that's the big grand lock that's standing in the way of a lot of things, you know, for us. So I'm still also trying to wrap my head around it, and I think that I would like for us to really just engage this topic more, educate one another, educate the youth. You know, we need a big and a serious force, you know, and we need to force it, you know, that it needs to change, and at least as I say, you know, if not the next generation or something, but it's quite serious. So this is from my side, the input that I'll give. You know, I'm very encouraged by the efforts that have been made, and I just want to also just say, you know, let's keep going. And you know, in terms of the cultural diplomacy, I've learned a lot today, I feel, and yeah, Galebocha, thank you so much.
As Boipelo, as always, you know, every time you speak, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. And I think as we proceed, there are fundamental decisions, or rather proposals we're making here. I think as people speak, may not be aware of them, but you know, every time when you speak and something, you know, triggers in your mind, you know that something had to be done. We did not necessarily have a platform like this to push it. And I think the issues you are raising are on point, sister. I know you're passionate as well about other related matters on the issues of cultural diplomacy, which is really about our institutions, you know, the institution of traditional leadership, the institution of traditional healing, the institution of self, you know. So those are some of the things that will build this kind of thing that we're talking about, Pratumza. This matter of confidence building, you know, the issue that that Khoroge is raising, the issue of this high level of you know, self-worth and self-recognition. Praluk says we are hobos. He says what? We are decorated hobos. I'm not sure, but we don't, who knows? I mean, that maybe, you know, he's speaking to people we don't know. But let me welcome Lisiba just to make an input, because I see he comes in and run. He did not get much of the issues we've raised, but let me just get your input, Lisiba, so that we can get to Tabasco. And maybe, you know, as a way, Ulisani, just right on the side there, there's that chat space, if you can just throw a few inputs as well. But let's get Ndate Mutwa. You've been working very hard. I know you are also part of some of the processes unfolding in the country. We're dealing with a serious matter here, which we think its time has come and we've got to lead it, which is cultural diplomacy in South Africa and really consolidating its content and what it must become. Your input, sir. Ndate Mutwa. It seems to be silenced as well, like Orisan. Tabasco.
Yes,
your input, my brother.
Yes. Greetings, everyone.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool stuff. Okay, well, you know what? I just you know, I got into this meeting, so I didn't catch all of that you spoke before. So my point would I'll just try to be as short as possible. When I look at the problems that we having, in regards to the arts and culture, it's basically that the younger upcoming artists or people that are involved in the culture, arts and culture, are not informed. And again, the kind of communication that we have in regards to what we are marching for or fighting for or tried or the resolutions to the problems that we come across, they are not you know, communicated to the younger people in a correct manner, not even a correct manner, but a manner that they can understand what we are facing. Even in this discussion, I mean, it's a high level of communication, whereas, you know, in the space of arts and culture, we have the up and coming young artists that needs to reach that level to understand what is it that we're talking about, what is it that we're trying to resolve at the end of the day. So by so saying, I would say we should introduce another way of communication to the younger upcoming, you know, cultural activists or whatever that we can call them. Simply because, like I mentioned before, you know, a movement, you know, whatever issues that we're trying to address needs to be understood correctly. Like, for instance, you know, our artists, my age, people of my age don't understand exactly what's going on. We keep on complaining on social media, but we don't have information why the arts and cultural, why are we being treated like this? We complain of the outcomes and the things that we experience, but we don't understand the motive behind what's happening behind the whole thing as arts and culture. You know, like for instance, these COVID relief funds. We know that there is, you know, some sort of corruption to it. But then that's, I'm sorry, you know, I don't know whether that's a correct way to.
No, you're correct.
You know,
You're
yeah.
doubtful of saying that that way. That's what I'm laughing at.
This is what
You know
we're
what I
saying.
mean? But at the end of the day, it is definitely a corruption. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, you know, we know that there is corruption, but we are not informed how this is being done, so we can think of a solution to that problem. I mean, we've been in so many. I've been involved in so many movements of trying to resolve problems that we come across. But then, you know, there's no clear understanding of where does this stems, where does this come from, and how do we, you know, come up with a way of finding a resolution to the problem. This thing has been going on for decades, you know, and then and we had so much of movements that you know, failed at the end of the day. I'm sorry to use that word because failing is a negative word.
No,
But
we have.
yeah, we have failed that, and the reason why we fail is because of the communication. According to me, the communication, people need to understand what is the problem. We, like I said, you know, it's being communicated at the higher level. Now, the people that are supposed to be there, being activists, young activists, don't understand it. They don't even know how to participate into that. Just like myself, there's somewhere where I don't know how to participate. I would like to participate, but I don't know how, because this is on a higher level. And you even I mean, we can go to the nits and gritties of the language used, like the English that we use, you know.
Even the word cultural diplomacy, for a lot of young guys, they'll say, what is that?
What is that exactly? So you know, at the end of the day, I cannot expect Bratumza to you know, be in front of us marching and being all loud. You understand what I'm saying? But if Bratumza would communicate with me in a way that I can understand what are we really fighting for, I can stand up because I'm still active. You know what I mean? I'm still young. I can stand up and represent Bratumza. You know, I can get information and be educated by Bratumza, you know, and then be able to relate that message to the world. So a movement at the end of the day can represent a positive, you know, attack to the problems. But if we can't communicate in a way that everybody understands what exactly is going on, we can't participate. We cannot fully participate. You're going to be basically because you don't know how to express yourself. You don't know the correct way of expressing yourself in that environment. So that, you know, I don't want to be too long. I can say a lot of things, but that's just what I wanted to add up on this meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much, TJ Tobasco. I think you are raising a very, very powerful matter. You are basically saying to Bratumza, to Rasiga, Tony, Lisiva, myself, and Bralux, and of course Burisan, because you've identified yourself as young amongst all of us, is that we've been just there. We've been talking to ourselves. We don't even narrate this story to young people who can then take it from there and really push it, because we must then recognize what I want to call generational importance. You know, which generation is important for which role in this whole big movement that we are dealing with. Our focus has been on the things that we're able to articulate, because we've spent a lot of time work on them, but nobody else after you can articulate these matters, which really is a discourse. Why do you continue if you're leaving people who must be beneficiaries of this same narrative, but they don't know how to put it? They can only speak about it when Bratunza is there. If Bratoni is not there, then what's the point? You know, you go to a meeting, you adjust numbers, but somebody who must speak is one who's been working on this matter and nobody else knows what else to say. And I think it's a very important issue that we are raising, which I honestly believe that Koroge has touched on. And I think it's summarized on the issue on what he's saying, that, you know, we need to start with education. We need to educate. We need to really develop a narrative that will be understood by everyone in the industry. So education you are noted, education in this sense, I don't think Bratoni is saying, let's get into class. He's talking about life teachings. How do you get people to understand the issues in a manner that they can be articulated by those who lived them? The experiences of people who gone into these spaces and suffered. How do you articulate that as a life experience, a kind of education? And I think that's something that we are raising, DJ Tobasco, which I think is critical, my brother. You know, and how I see all these interactions is that we're now basically providing a basis. By the way, Rasiga Mantula, in the Department of DERCO, International Relations and Cooperation, they have got a school of diplomacy, but their focus has always been on learning other languages of the world, and not even teaching our own white counterparts our own languages. They don't have isiZulu there. They've got Spanish, Portuguese, and stuff. I'm a beneficiary, by the way. I did not know what else to do. I mean, there was no song. But all the same, the point I'm trying to raise is that we can piggyback on already what is existing. Because in fact, I have been invited to come and do some part of cultural diplomacy to a number of people who get deployed. It's an opportunity that I got. And I realized that, look, even if I speak to these guys, you know, it's that boring subject, you know, culture, we'll just dance, you know. And I think it's exactly what we are talking about, this education. How do we package it? How do we make sure that it becomes a narrative that is adopted by any generation that comes through this particular channel? Sister Jaros, welcome to the team, and we have been really articulating some issues. Ndate Motwa, I hope now you would have gathered your thoughts and would contribute. Mwetapeli, Mwafrika, Motwa. He's been silenced as well. Sister Jaros, without putting you on the spot, can you just share with us just your reflections on the issue, on the topic?
You know, on the
Oh, you had
screen,
raised your hand. Yeah, let me take you there.
No, before you take me, I'm looking at the people that you've been calling, their mic seems to be mute. I'm not sure if when they try to talk, it's not going through.
Okay, let them unmute mic.
Yes, unmuted.
Okay.
Thank you.
People have been mute. Ulisani, check your mic. It's mute.
Sister Jaros.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Greetings, everybody.
Welcome, sister. I know you may not have gotten us from the beginning, but every time we get a contributor and inputs, we really appreciate. Just your reflections on the topic, sister.
I'm not sure what's the topic, but I got in at the part where we were talking about education.
Yes. Oh, well, the topic is about cultural diplomacy. Basically, our argument that we're making now, and there's a strong proposal that we need to start engaging DERCO on the establishment of what we call Azania Cultural Diplomacy Institute, but it's something that still needs to be picked up. But just your reflections on your experience on cultural diplomacy, you know, I mean, not from a perspective of being able to raise 50 million likes, but from your experience of interacting with the world, you know. How have you been able to find that experience, and what is it that we can learn? Because we are certainly working towards trying to get ourselves a policy direction in that regard.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Every time when we travel abroad, we are normally hosted by these academia spaces, particularly universities. And one thing that I've realized, particularly with Norman Beijing University, is that when they speak of cultural activism, or when they speak of particularly writing, because I'm becoming into that space of literature, creative writing, and poetry and poetics across languages and across cultures. Look, it's an office on its own. When you're talking, for example, the office of the poet laureate, it's not just a status, but it's an office. So it's calcated into various stream of academia spaces. You get a university of poetry, you get a college of poetry and translation. So I think they teach us that when we're talking education and when we're talking streamlining cultural institutions, it's beyond our creativity, is beyond the stages, but it's us compacting and developing these things into curriculum. It's us developing these things into institutions, into models, into modules, and so forth. So when we're talking culture as a curriculum. We're talking culture as something that a child learns in high school. It's already an option post-matric, one going into a college. It's already embedded within the system, unlike here at home, where it's still a stepsister, cousin, distant cousin, when you're talking the arts or the creative industry as a whole. So I think our tasks when we're talking policy becomes also mapping forward these modules, mapping forward these cultures, these policies, everything that we are talking about. How do we then compartmentalize it to a student at high school, when we're talking creative industries, when you're talking various policies, when you're talking the amendment bill, when you're talking the copyrights bill? How do we cascade that information and disembowel it into a module that will be taught to a grade 10, to a first year student, and so forth? So I feel like sometimes these things are said legislatively or with legal terms and legal terminologies that it seems they are far away from us, when there are ways where they could be brought to the people. I think that would be my contribution thus far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sister. As always, it's always a pleasure to also engage with you, and one always grows from your inputs. Look, I think one of the things that we then have to do is to really ask a question to ourselves as a collective here, and ask a question: what makes this platform different from any other platform that is taking place, for instance, now, you know, amongst creatives, and based on what they've come across and what they are seeing in the state of the creative industry? I think that's one question we need to ask ourselves, so that we don't become another talk show. It's a very important question we need to ask ourselves, because it means there must be something different that we've got to do going out of this platform. Something different. One of the things we should not, pretend that is not happening is that creatives or everything that we're saying is not said anywhere else. But I think it is how we then move forward that then changes the shape of the discussion. Fundamentally here, Bratumza, maybe let me take you, having posed that question.
Yeah, yeah.
What is it? Because I think in the next 30 minutes before we close, we've got to be able to say we're going with 1, 2, and 3. We're going to then give this responsibility to number Tepo or Tabasco and so forth to start developing some document that we can then take to DERCO. Such that we don't pretend as if these discussions are not taking place, because honestly speaking, they are. Bratumza.
Okay, thanks everybody. Hulisani, before I start, can Hulisani say something? I can see now it's unmuted.
Hulisani, are you there, my brother?
Okay, it's not working. Let's leave it at that. Before I say what I can say, a big question comes to mind, and it has been a question since November until now. A big question that comes to my mind is, what structures do we have already that artists or anyone in the creatives belongs to or participate in? And one that comes to mind is CIFSA, right? I think maybe if we can also clarify what is the role of CIFSA, so that everybody can understand what really is this baby or this jargon or this dinosaur called CIFSA that is in the room. Because even when I was engaging with the artists that I manage on the business side, the issue of CIFSA kept on coming, right? And one of the things that I did for this particular artist and other groupings that were trying to support this artist and others on the issue that Bratoni raised of the COVID relief thing. I wrote a letter, I drafted a letter that went into the department, because remember, we hadn't actually engaged with you, Brother Tsepo, at that time. And I developed that letter, and I raised a number of things, including the issue of CIFSA. Now, we need to also, before we even get into what can we do practically, let's look at what is available there. Does it serve a purpose? And if it serves a purpose, on whose behalf does it serve a purpose? And maybe also take steps there to say, if it doesn't represent the aspirations of artists or the creatives that we have. I mean, for now, if you have creatives complaining the way they are complaining and there is a body called CIFSA, then I'm worried as to how do we use our resources, not only as government provided, but resources as individuals participate. Remember, Bratsepo, if you are a member of CIFSA or participate, you are a resource. Is you being a resource, being useful to the creatives? So these are the questions that I think we need to also ask. But then on the point that you're raising, I think that I will go with Brother Matoto here. I'm going to support him wholeheartedly. The space that we are in is a platform already, right? And I just listened to Jaros now, Sister Jaros and Sister Pumzile. These are twins based on what they've said. They're talking about the same thing. They're already actually on it, both of them. So those are already twins. They're actually talking about the thing that they practically do and that they can practically do. That's the starting point. Some of us, we are good in policy development. I've worked on policies, even the current cooperative policy that we have in the country. From the beginning of the research work, policy process, bill and so on until to come to the act of government as it is. I participate. So we have a number of skills within. Abu Pratoni, we know, we see them on TV, not only as actors, but also activists. There is some kind of work that he's already doing, advocacy work that is already, in actual fact, people like Pratoni and Tabasco can team up in terms of advocacy work to influence the young ones that are coming up now. When they see Pratoni, they don't just see an actor, they also see a teacher, a person who's able to, a go-to person to do. But so we need to structurize this movement in a way that it becomes a government on its own. Have compact departments that are actively developing something to create a sharpened spear. But as it is right now, my concern, like I raised it when I started speaking the first time, is that we are not able to get to that level if we don't even have the induction process for the young ones who are joining the industry. Young people go in there, they don't know what they sign themselves into. How many of the young artists today that are being signed that know what they're signing themselves into? Do we have in our platform a space to say anyone who wants to sign a contract, can they come in here so that then they understand what the contract is? You understand? So we might be working, and I'm saying I'm in for it. I'm in with the artists that I have and that I work with, not that I have, but the problem still is the same. Artists are not even confident of taking up their issues. Now, if we are going to work on something that is supposed to be working for artists, and when an artist themselves are not confident of how they raise their issues, then we are actually putting water in a monkey, that laundry, what do you call it? Not if it's a monkey, if it's a monkey, laundry bucket. You put water in there, you're not going to be able to salvage anything. We need to come back and find ways of counseling an artist. Provide space for an artist. DJ Tabasco has spoken. The language that we use, right? We may talk now when we finish with 20 and all that, but it still sticks with us. It stays with us. Younger ones, they are signing a contract today. Today, they're signing a contract. They're signing their lives off to somebody else to own them. Those are the things that we really have to be dealing with if we really have to be serious about pushing. But in terms of the cultural diplomacy and all that, I'm for it. We can work from up there. Unfortunately, that's how it is. We just dump things, but then we have to work at the higher level and come down. But then we need to find a language, like Tabasco has spoken, find a language that we can use to engage people at the lower level. Brad Gibson Kente is the only person that I can use much. He owned his production. How many of the people that we have in the country now who own their productions?
I think you are raising fundamental issues, Bratumza, and I think you are being emphatic on these matters. And I think it's only fair, because, like you correctly say, part of it is that you are dealing with artists, and you see their situation on a daily basis, and it becomes therefore a matter of direct interest to you to see how we build this confidence and to make sure that we grow from it. On matters related to CIFSA, I will say this. I will say this. By the way, myself, Sister Jaros, Lisiba is gone. We were in the Mpumalanga conference, and of course, Ndadokoroche as a leader was also there previously. But we are members of CIFSA. I don't want to speak on behalf of CIFSA. What I do know is that, leader, the process we're engaging in still needs to filter into CIFSA processes, because they still need to undertake policy processes. So what I'm saying is, if we can be able to, you know, identify and position ourselves as leaders in the space of foreign policy or cultural diplomacy policy development or policy making, at least we will contribute something to CIFSA. I know for a fact that there's so much work that still needs to be done in CIFSA, and I'm not speaking on behalf of CIFSA. The last time I engaged with this instrument or this organization was when we're in Mpumalanga, and we still yet to engage and build what creatives want to see. So I would rather say for now, until there's clarity in terms of policy certainty and policy direction, which is still yet to happen, maybe we should for now focus on our interests and be able to position ourselves as you know, thought leaders when it comes to issues of cultural diplomacy. Because there are thought leaders when it comes to a policy in the music industry. They are there. We can't claim as if they are not. There are thought leaders when it comes to filming and Bo Bratoni Khoroge. There are thought leaders when it comes to writing and publishing, Bo Ausjaro's legal issues. So we have a lot of practitioners, some of whom are not even part of any organization, right? So they are part of a movement of wanting to see change in South Africa. And they don't want to even, you know, submit themselves to organization. I've met a lot of powerful creatives out there, and the work that they do, you'd rather in fact have them as an institution than having a group of people, you know, claiming to be representing everybody, you know. So I'm saying what we are doing basically is to identify which areas can we be able to lead and contribute our expertise and our wisdom in the general processes of, you know, overhauling and rebuilding the creative industries, which I feel that's what needs to happen in South Africa. You know, one of the things that we need to do, Bratums, and I agree with DJ Tobasco. I foresee a situation where we go out in provinces and establish creative industry policy forums, for instance. We still need to go and look into the relevance and the responsiveness of the current creative industry policy dispensation. We still need to do that because we can't have policies reviewed, policies established, yet the industry does not change. It means something is wrong. So somebody has got to say, how far has this policy went? What are the blockages? What needs to be changed? So we don't have those platforms. And for me, in my mind, it means that we have come to a point where, as creative practitioners, we always want to be led to develop a policy that must benefit us. And it has shown to be not working. So we've got to start beginning a process of leading the policy processes. Let us lead them so that when we table something, at least we know that it comes from us, right? If we've got to defend it, we defend it because it comes from us. You know, Braton is raising a very important issue of the bills that have been returned back to Parliament. You know, pleading with us that let's engage these processes. We've got to do that because, in all honesty, I know that people claim they were part of processes of Parliament and so forth, but 90% of creatives never participated in those processes. Now, if you have a situation like that where the president does not even have confidence of the creative industry practitioners saying to him, sign, you know, and others are saying, no, don't sign. The question is, but exactly what do we want? What have we done ourselves? Because at least if we say, don't sign this one, let's put another one on the table so that at least there is some form of a position of some sort. So I propose that, you know, as we have started like this, it should be us who start proposing initiatives that will change lives. The education part, Tobasco, can be that you expect Bratoni to come to each and every hall. No, it's for you to start in your small space and say, can we be able to look at the policy dispensation in South Africa ourselves? Because that's where you start learning, right? We need to look at what policies are there that affect you directly. and then start engaging those policies with your peers. And that's where the education comes. So you can always call Bratoni just to reflect on your understanding of issues. But it can be the situation that you are sitting until Ras Siga as an advocate comes and speaks to you, then you are doing nothing. So we've got to be able to take charge of our situation. Our situation is leaderless. Our situation is leaderless. There's nobody who can speak with certainty on matters that are affecting the industry. We can't even talk about the officials and the minister, because some of the things that he does, you don't even have to think about it twice, but you realize that the man is out of lack of understanding of what he's doing. And lots of things, if he would be taken to court, he will lose those court cases. So we can't wait. From where I'm sitting, we can't continue to be waiting. But let me not belabor the matter, because we left with 5 minutes, unless there are last few inputs that colleagues want to make. I want to just wrap it up nicely to say, as part of the way forward, this is what is going to happen. And there are key issues that have come up that I think we need to zoom into them. And I'm giving each one of us at least a minute. We're left with just 5 minutes or 30 seconds if you can. And let's wrap it up nicely. I'm going to highlight 5 issues that I think we will take to the bigger group. And we can then start allocating ourselves, comrades or colleagues or creatives,
with that word,
South Africans, you know, fellow
those
South
people.
Africans, please, compatriots, we don't have the time. And Tatamantula, then Tobasco, and then we close it nicely.
Mafrika, I think my 2 comments will be around what Bratumza said. The issue of existing structures, it is very important for us to re-engage and look at their thinking cap, Yabonor Ikokai. Secondly, I was thinking, how work a policy review. I've just said on the chart, the APRM process on the arts and culture sector, it will be a very, it is going to assist us very well, because it's a review, the government, and it is a plan as well. It is an implementation plan. So we are not critiquing our own government of what it has not been doing. The issue is that they failed to do it properly. So we will be redirecting it. It will be like a detour now from the policy directive. And I think finally, the issue of education, I fully agree that let it benefit the young ones and the young generation of cultural activists. They cannot be sitting on social media raising the same issues, and in some instances, they are not becoming themselves. They have been following other issues. So it is very important for the young people to understand this soft power. Like Tony said, this power, it is in their hands, but in their thinking as well, in their minds, you know. So I think I've sent a lot on the chat, which might be helpful in drafting notes as well, and to have a second process again of a workshop, because this is part of cultural exchange of ideas. We are sharing ideas that are very potent and are very relevant, and we should not doubt them. And I fully agree with Tony that we should engage with DIRCO, we should engage with arts and culture, and we should note those meetings, whether they will engage us or they will not give us the platform or audience, but we must engage them in many ways. And we can still use the power of the mass media. For me, it's that social media has been overused, and in some instances, people lost focus. But the power of the mass media, the power of print media, the power of these webinars, they will get traction in the future. So the currency is that I would have wanted us finally to question 2 things. You had conferences of music, Mushito. We should understand what Mushito does on cultural issues, diplomacy, because they are bringing foreigners. Where Tony is there now in Durban, they are having music in Bizo. Are you aware that the issues that are going to be engaging in that music in Bizo, it is the Pan-African and the global agenda currently, 27 to 29 of August. When I look at their content, they are dealing with the issues that we are talking about. It is at high level, as it was said by one of our panelists, Tobascus, that we must not pitch things at high level. bring them down. But there are workshops, there are trainings, there's a lot. So even us, I think we should move away from speechifying and giving sermons and thesis. We should just start on issues of training, capacity building now, Tsepo, of starting to learn from one another by pushing, by all means. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Mantula. Tobasco, so that at least we have got 2-3 high-level issues we agree on, and we take them to the beer forum and we move.
Well, I mean, Simon Tula just, he took my words. That's basically what I wanted to emphasize on. But then again, one other important aspect is that on our WhatsApp platform, there is people that are there, but still don't understand what we stand for. That is the reason why sometimes when you ask people to partake into, like for instance, this meeting, they cannot partake, or they don't feel like they should partake because they don't understand what is it that we want to talk about. Even though, some people, people understand that we are basically a movement that is trying to address issues that we have in arts and culture space. But then again, the subjects that we're going to talk about must be clear enough so a person can say, okay, I would like to partake on this one. You understand what I'm saying? At the end of the day, some people, even now we have about on this chat saying, I don't know what we are talking about here, but they just joined us to listen to what we're talking about. So let's try and be clear on exactly what we're talking about, and probably even, as you said, get people who are responsible to address certain points and so on, so that it can move smoothly. Then we understand exactly what we're doing. It's not nice for a person to be involved in something that they do not understand but would like to be involved in. So that's basically what I wanted to say.
No, thanks very much, Tobasco. And let me once again thank everyone before I give these high-level issues that have come out of this powerful webinar, which I personally, I truly appreciate that we had the time and the space to do this under this unfortunate environment of COVID where we find ourselves. So we should be quite proud and thank the fact that we still are here and be able to make those inputs that will take the processes forward. Also, those who are watching, there's lots of people who are watching, by the way. I see on the side people are saying, but nevertheless, the issues here.
What are they saying?
No, it's fine. I was just saying on the side, that's why I don't understand. All the same, I think what we need to then agree on is that there are fundamental issues that we've got to look at. I will identify, I think, 3 of the most important, not that others are not, but those that are actionable, that we can run with, right? One is that there must be an acknowledgement of generational importance in the creative industry. We've got to be able to say, so you have got people like Bo Mam Hlengiwe on the platform. What is it that we've got to do so that other young people that are coming through the same journey that they are in can learn and avoid some of the things that they have gone through? Bratoni raises the same thing. So issues of education, generational importance in the creative industry, backed up by education, becomes important. That's the first thing. Because as you do that education work and empowering them with information, then they are able to build some level of confidence. But that does not mean that the current cadre of creatives or those who came before the young ones are confident themselves. So we've got to see how we balance that. How do we make sure that they also are given the confidence they need? Including the fact that if there are battles that needs to be fought to regain and reinstate the confidence of creatives, if we have people like Boaz Pumzi, they must help us to do so, you know, in the legal way. How do we help people to challenge their legal frustrations? Maybe it's something we need to do whilst we teach each other moving forward. I think that's the first thing. And the only platform, colleagues, that we are going to have to also test this is a platform that we have. You know, we're not going to now go outside and look. I think we need to capitalize on the strength that we have currently in the creative digital streets. And I think if we can do that and start communicating relevant information, Tobasco, then we'll move forward. The other issue that has been raised is what Pralux was talking about. You know, the fact that we need to understand what color are we. I mean, so when you appear there, I mean, people should be able to see that that man is a creative because of something. You know, it's not really color as in blue, green, but there must be something that identifies a South African creative amongst all other kind of sectoral participation. So we need to be able to think about that. But what that also means is that if you are wearing those colors, you must be able to respect those colors. And I'm not talking colors as in the color, but you must respect the identity that you are part of a particular society that is advancing a particular agenda. So I think we need to talk about that as well. And I think at some point we've got to allow Bralux to help us with some form of a half a page input about what exactly is it that we're talking about. Bratoni, on issues of education, where do we need to zoom in as an immediate, you know, intervention so that at least when we start something, it's based on the fact that we know it's going to trigger and basically deal with the current issues that young people are facing, or the creative or the practitioners in general. The last issue which I personally wish to volunteer myself is to develop a document that will start allowing us to engage with the Department of International Relations on cultural diplomacy. And I think together with Bratumza from a policy point of view, together with Raz Mantula, but everybody who's interested, we can then sit and look at the document and say, does this thing make sense? So that when we go and present it, we know for a fact that nobody has presented anything to DERCO. I say this as a matter of fact, because I know I was part of the South African Council on International Relations. There's nothing that is existing in DERCO. So if we are able to pull together some form of a base discussion document with DERCO, first and foremost from a perspective of diplomacy, then we're able to pull it together and present it to the collective and say, this is what we're going to be presenting to the minister. It will be easy as well to get an appointment with the minister, by the way. So I'm saying this is the third issue that can happen. And we're able to then deal with these matters in that way. I think these are three high-level issues about regaining the confidence and strength of the industry, to educating, you know, that intergenerational education process must happen. You know, we've got platforms, colleagues, you know, we don't want to advertise here, but we've got an online radio station where some of these discussions can take place. You get what I'm saying? Where we can bring in people who can engage with these platforms that we've created. So I'm just saying that there must be a way in which we structure these things such that they talk to us. So those are the three high-level issues, unless, colleagues, there are other issues. But I thought these will be able to give us direction in regards to what is it that we should do as a next step from this webinar, colleagues. If we agree, I think we can just indicate, and then what we'll do from the inputs that have been made and the recording that we have, will be, one, we'll share it, but two, we'll develop a report that will then come to all of us, and we start working on some things that are practical. Currently, I do feel that the industry is all over the place, but if we can zoom ourselves into these three items, I think we can make a dent really in this difficult time where we find ourselves. Unless colleagues have got different views, but I think it's matters that I was thinking or hearing that we are agreeing on, and we can then march forward with them, which now the next step is to present to the bigger forum and indicate that this leadership that is here will be leading these processes moving forward, but we're not closing anyone out, of course. Are we fine, colleagues?
I'm good.
Yes, we are fine.
We're good.
You're
Yeah?
fine.
Can I just add?
Yes, sister.
Yes, I totally agree with the inputs that are given. I just wanted to also re-emphasize on why is it that there had to be an establishment of the Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, which is CIFSA.
Yeah.
You see, today we have taxi associations that are solid in their policies, in their structure. When any department needs to talk to any taxi man, they know a channel that they're going through or via. The domestic workers at some point, they also had their association that today the issues of labor are addressed. And hence we have today CIFSA, for example, because indeed as creative, we also needed to have a home and a belonging that could also be a channel where we engage with government, with private sector and so forth. I mean, the issue of labor currently could not be more than re-emphasized, because I think it exposed the industry further with freelancers, with artists and creatives not even having a way of accessing relief funds beyond the ones that were set aside later for arts and culture. But we saw how a struggle was posed to the creatives in terms of where do you go as an artist? Where do you go as a practitioner, as a creative? So I feel like the issue of labor cannot be neglected, because as an artist, you are also a creative worker. And if this government or this country is not recognizing you as such, it means we still have a major problem. So in our discussions, in our plans, in our policies, I strongly suggest that that input or that line item should be one of ones that we should be researching on how to engage with the Department of Labor, including SARS, by the way, because you're still taxed 28% of your income, yet you are not recognized as a full-time labor simply because you are a legal entity via CIPRA and so forth. So we need to be broadening our stand in terms of us regarding ourselves as creative workers in this country, as taxpayers and so forth. I know in France and in Denmark, for example, I'm sorry that I keep bringing these first world countries, but one thing that I learned from them.
Because they're doing works. Because they've got clarity when it comes to issues of cultural diplomacy.
Yes. So for example, they've already have a policy on SARS. For example, we are told that there'll be a professional, a semi-professional, a developing artist and so forth. But their policy says a professional artist only contributes about 6% to SARS in their countries, while we're expected to contribute 28% simply because you are a legal entity or company. Yet the laws in place don't regard you as a worker or a laborer. So our policies must be that vast as we start to engage with all these departments and so forth. So thank you very much.
Beautiful. I like that.
Thank you, Sister Jaros. And I think those issues are critical and they're urgent. What we'll have to do is really to have broken down as well, so we can have a dedicated session on that. You know, issues that relates to labor and issues that relates to the work environment of a creative. So I think in the overall of this discussion, the issues that you are raising, as I say, they are very, very important. And I do think, by the way, so for colleagues, Jaro sits in the NEC of CIFSA, representing the subsector on creative writing. Am I right?
Languages and
Yes.
publishing.
Languages and publishing. So she sits with the president and the secretary general and them. So these issues, I think, are issues that I'm sure they're grappling with. One of the things that we then need to do is to see how, as we move forward, we're able to also make contribution in that regard. Yeah, in that regard, I thought Rasta was doing at the end of the meeting. But we agree that there are three of these fundamental issues that we are going to run with. Auspumzile is asking what are the practical steps moving forward? Practical steps. So I think we need to be able to indicate that each one of us who's going to have to be part of these high-level issues, right? These high-level areas we've identified. And we're going to call on other creatives who are in the platform to join in and help us move forward. Because I think if we can then start, it will tell us the direction in which we must go. Currently, we can only say these are the issues. This is what needs to be done, and the next step is to be practical about them. So I think the practical areas, steps, is that let's organize ourselves according to these three high-level issues, and then call on the entire collective to add value in terms of participation. And then we can take it from there. Because then it means others who are leading a particular high-level issue will then come and present to the team. I think that's what I thought will allow us to help us to move in terms of being practical. Are we fine, colleagues?
Yes,
is it practical
Noted.
enough?
Yes, noted. Thanks.
Okay, no, thanks very much. Colleagues.
Can I just say something before we close?
Yes.
Just a simple, yeah. I just want to ask this. Our movement, can we now publicize this movement? Can we talk about this thing on Facebook, social platforms? Or is it a private movement as we are now? Do we also, second question, can I invite other people to join us in this movement, or we still trying to develop ourselves first before we can add a whole bunch of people in this movement? You know, and the third one, you don't have to answer them now. The third, you can raise these questions in WhatsApp and whatsoever. The third one is, can we have like our apparel of this movement as well, so we can wear them and then exercise if ever this is a public movement as such?
Yeah,
you don't have to answer them now.
So I think, yeah, I'm not responding. I think the Creative Digital Streets remains a network of individual creatives doing different work, and we're building up towards what we are talking about, Tabasco. I don't think currently, because Creative Digital Streets does not even have a leadership. We are all leaders there, right? So I'm thinking that at this point, what we need to do, we can only consolidate that effort when there is something practical and people know that I'm coming into this thing, I know what is moving, right? So currently we really are united by the suffering that we are feeling based on the COVID and how we need to maximize digital platforms, but we are not yet there, how I see it. Until we are able to then come up, this process, this one, helps us now to begin to make practical interventions, practical ideas, push them and see how far they take us. That's why we've got to identify 3 high level. And we're not in competition, of course, with anybody. We are creatives ourselves in our own right, and we think we've got something to contribute to change the status quo. That's what it is. And we don't have to all Tobasco be in the same meeting. We must understand that. Those who are able, who understand their, or rather who've got time to contribute will do so. So I'm just saying that we remain a network of creative practitioners. And we will get to a point where practically, when we say you are inviting other people, Tobasco, they know that Tobasco is responsible for mobilizing and advocacy. You get what I'm saying? But for now, we are not there, how I see it. We are not yet there, colleagues.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So I think let's remain as a network that is able to showcase the kind of powerful talent that is there. At some point, we must be able to say, how do we then take this to the world? But that must be informed by some policy direction, which would have fought for in the department there. I mean, one of the things, sorry, just I'm belaboring. One of the things that I raised with Charles, by the way, she was part of a webinar for young people, and there was NYDA there. One of the things I was raising is that, you know, young people don't have a relationship with NYDA at all. I mean, young people were stuck there in different countries of the world. They couldn't even call on the NYDA, right? So part of what we need to be able to do is to see how we are able to go to NYDA and say to them, this is your role in the creative industry. This is your role. This is what you must be able to do, because they don't have an idea of how they can engage the industry. So if we are able to lead that process, I'm sure the CEO can open up the doors for us to can come and engage. You see what I'm saying? Because they are not engaging this matter. So I'm saying let's develop this thing, Tobasco. Let's make it something that is fundamentally stable before we can talk about public movement and so forth.
Okay.
Colleagues, unless I've in any other way may have, you know, wronged someone in the process, let me say I apologize, but we are all in this. We have built this platform, we're continuing to build it, and I will develop a report in consultation, of course, with Mandula and Golden, and colleagues will contribute, and we can have a first report of our first webinar and think about way forward. And having said that, colleagues, I really, really thank you. And everyone who's watching, thank you as well. We know that you've got inputs to make. You can make them after the meeting, is still fine. We'll accept them. Thank you once more, colleagues. And thanks to your families. I know that you've locked them out of some rooms there in the house. Yeah. Yeah, others are not in the car there, Tobasco, but all the same, Ralux,
No, man.
you those people out in the cold there.
They
But
keep
all
on
the same,
knocking
thank
at
you,
my
colleagues. Yeah.
They keep
Okay,
on knocking
thank
at
you
my
very
door.
much.
What to do it, you know?
Yeah. Thank you, colleagues. Have a wonderful and happy Women's Day to all our mothers in the Creative Congress movement, in the creative digital streets. We love you, and keep on, you know, harboring us and making us warm. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful night.
You
Okay,
too,
Have a
all.
wonderful
Everyone,
night.
good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aire, Rasta.
Yep. Meeting adjourned.
How do we save the meeting? Hey, Tabasco.
Exe. Kira ke trao loga
Hey,
auto
man.
mo Yeah, no, I think in more it's really great. You know, something will come out of this. Wakata dawa, it's wakatanyana that's all. Wakata, it's No, listen up.
I'm ending the meeting as we speak, so I'm just gonna remove everyone. Thank you all for watching and participating. My name is Holden. Thank you.
But